What's going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, staying safe, healthy. If you had to take a COVID test, hopefully you have tested negative. And if you did test positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery with no long COVID issues. It is time now for the pandemic update for Tuesday, September 26th, 2023. Starting off, we do have a couple things I want to show you that I added to the website today. And then I do have a news story to show you. Then we have a good amount of data to go over today, which includes Walgreens, which did finally update today. First off, U.S. Senator Tina Smith announced on Twitter today that she tested positive. This is from Minnesota. She's a senator out of Minnesota. And this is not her first case. This is actually her second case. Her first case was back on July 20th of 2022. Currently, she is 65 years old. Then we come over to this. And this is a COVID outbreak that's ongoing in Cumberland County, Maine. It's in Portland area. Portland, Maine. The Cumberland County Jail is dealing with a new outbreak of COVID-19. So far in the jail, 17 inmates have tested positive for the virus. Of course, if we see any updates on this, I will add to the thread and, of course, report on it here on the pandemic updates. Moving on to this now. This is from ABC News, and quite frankly, all the news outlets posted about this morning or did something on it, and it's actually a surprise. Finally, a news story on long COVID. And what that means is they're saying about 18 million U.S. adults have had long COVID, according to what the CDC says. Now, you may have your own number in your mind. I may have my number. Some think it's more. Some think that's correct. It doesn't matter. The fact that the media is finally acknowledging long COVID, that's huge. I mean, we have hardly heard any COVID coverage for the longest amount of time. Then late summer we started to hear about it, and now we're hearing more about it. We'll see how long it lasts, though. There are elections coming up next year, and that's going to probably be a bigger focus of the news. But hey, the fact that, long COVID got a mention today, that's big. And what they're finding is around or close to 7% of adults, or again, 18 million, are currently suffering with long COVID. So that is great to finally see the news even mention long COVID. Let's hope they continue mentioning it because it's a real issue. And many people who have it don't even realize that they're suffering from long COVID, but they do. I mean, they may have had COVID, now they're having new health issues, saying, oh, it's just my diet and this. No. Did you have COVID? Maybe the new health issue that you're having is caused by your COVID infection. All right, taking a look at air qualities today. It's kind of a mixed picture. You do see a lot of green. The West Coast and the mountainous regions, there's some moderate air qualities. But if we move slightly more east to the Rockies, looking better today. Then we come over to the plains. A few bad air qualities in the southern plains. It's the Northeast that for some reason there are some poor air qualities, and we're still getting this easterly flow here in the Northeast coming off the Atlantic Ocean. Sometimes that can make the air qualities drop. I do note that when there's days like today, it's cloudy, it's drizzly here in Philadelphia. Often, sometimes days like today, for some reason, causes me to cough more. I don't know if it's the moisture. I don't know what the deal is, but it happened last night. It definitely happened this morning. It's better this afternoon. Fingers crossed it stays that way. But yeah, just some poor air qualities. Look at Buffalo and Toronto. Numbers approaching 100. I see 102 in Toronto. So overall, that's not terrible, but it's also not great either. And ideally, we want to see levels below 50. We want to see these greens pop up. And it may take a while for that to happen in the Northeast. May not be until sometime next week when this whole pattern changes. Alrighty, let's take a look at Walgreens, which did come in today. Some good news out of Walgreens. The national positivity, not only did it drop, it's at 27.7% versus 32.5% last week, but the total number of people who got tested, yes, that number went up. It is now at 9,915. The prior week was 6,728. So that's a pretty big increase in testing. And my hope is we can get that to above 10,000 again. But I do acknowledge PCR testing, it's expensive right now. So we'll have to see, though. I'm surprised it even got this high. 9,915 tests again. That's good. And that's telling me that if we don't get it above 10,000 next week, definitely probably around the holidays we will. So that's some good news. Let's take a look at a few states, starting off with Maine. Maine this week, if you look at the charts here, some of these charts are going to be a little out of whack. That's because some weeks, some states did not report. Maine was one of those states. 10% positivity this week. Prior week was 33.3%. Difference of down 23.3%. Total test, 10 versus 12. So testing did drop there as well. New Hampshire, again, a wonky looking chart. And that's because some weeks they did not report. 53.8%. Prior week was 36.4%. That's a difference of up 17.5%. So that is not good. When we take a look at testing in New Hampshire, 13 tests versus 11, so yeah, testing went up slightly, and yes, overall that is a legitimate rise. Can we take a look at Vermont? No, we cannot. The reason why I want to see Vermont is, as you know, or maybe you don't know, if you've been following my Twitter, there is an ongoing COVID outbreak at schools in Vermont, and there's one private school that is, on last update I saw, 70 cases out of 300 students. That's not good. Let's take a look at Pennsylvania. 39.6% positivity this week. The prior week was 36.2%. That's a difference of up 3.3%. Total test, 91. The prior week was 69. So yes, Pennsylvania is trending higher, and there's going to be a lot of spread in Pennsylvania because a lot of people from different portions of the state went up to State College for game weekend last weekend, so not good to see. Let's come down here to Mississippi. What's going on there? Mississippi, 30% positivity this week, 20.7%. Last week, difference of up 9.3%, and believe it or not, this one is a legitimate rise. 30 tests versus 29 tests, and that's kind of odd to see because the South right now is somewhat dropping. Look at this, Texas. Wow, 25.9% positivity. Prior week was 31.5%. So it did drop by 5.6%, but this is what's interesting. Texas, total number of tests done, 1,931. That's good to see. Prior week was 1,529. How about Florida? Florida positivity this week is 24.8%. The prior week was 30.2%. Difference of down 5.4%. Total test, 1,223. Prior week was 851. How about Georgia? Georgia is at 20.1% this week, and they were at 28.6% last week. That's a difference of down 8.5%. Total tests, 374 versus 259. Let's go out west, and then we will do the Great Lakes. California, 31.8% this week, 42.2% last week. That's a difference of down 10.3%. Total test, 424. So testing did drop, and prior week was 472 tests. So despite the testing drop, they did see a legitimate drop in positivity. Oregon, 27.6 positivity this week. Prior week was 40.6%. That's a difference of down 13%, and testing did go up 58 versus 32. Washington, 31.9% positivity this week. Prior week was 30.9%. That's a difference of up 1%. Total test also increased, 229 versus 136. That's a big testing increase, but yet the positivity still increased slightly. So that is a rise. Hopefully next week we will see that number drop. Nevada, 40.4% positivity this week. Prior week was at 30.9%. That's a difference of up 9.5%. Total test, 52 versus 55. They did see a slight drop in testing, but 9.5% increase in positivity. That's a legitimate rise. Nebraska, 18.2% positivity this week, 17.4% last week, 0.8% increase. Testing increase, 33 versus 23. That's a legitimate rise. Illinois, 31% positivity this week, 32.5% last week. That's a difference of down 1.5%, and testing, it went up significantly. 722 versus 471 last week. Taking a look at Indiana, 24.6% positivity this week. Prior week was 29.2%. Difference of down 14.6%. And testing up. It more than doubled. 122 tests this week, 51 last week. Ohio has 27.4% positivity this week. The prior week was 25.9%. That's a difference of up 1.5%. 270 tests versus 112. Not only is that a legitimate rise, they also did see a big increase in testing, which is good to see. Wisconsin, okay, we can do Wisconsin. 32.7% this week, 32.9% last week. That's dropped. 0.2% decrease and a big increase in testing. 306 versus 146. All right, can we do Michigan? Let's see. Yes, we will end Walgreens today on Michigan. 27.6 positivity this week. Same amount last week. No change. However, testing did increase. 330 versus 156. That more than doubled. That's a big increase in testing, but yet the positivity still stayed the same. All right. Let's take a look at BioBot. BioBot is now dropping in all regions for wastewater. As you know, taking a look at the CDC wastewater sites, you can see the number of red sites. They increased by 9%. There's 152 of them. However, light blue decreased, and the only thing that did not decrease is also, well, actually two things. Moderate orange sites, that stayed the same percentage, but new sites did increase. So it's good to see more sites popping up, and I'm definitely noticing more sites on this map than I used to see. Let's take a look at a couple of those wastewater scan sites. We'll do one in Florida and one on the West Coast. What we're looking for here is to see if there's any increase in flu. COVID at this time has been dropping, though on the most recent update, it rose a little bit. Going to move myself to the left so you can see this better. Influenza, not detected yet. RSV, wow, RSV is starting to go straight up. That's not good to see. So flu, I would assume within the next few weeks, may start to follow. We'll have to see what happens. HMPV, it rose a little bit, and then it dropped again. Mpox, not detected. Norovirus overall trajectory is down. And we do have this new, couple new things on here. Look at this. They're adding more stuff on here now. Hepatitis A is now on here. Human endovirus group F. See, some of these things I don't honestly know what they are, so I'm going to have to do some research. We now have rotavirus. That's a new one to me. There's a little detection of that. We'll probably just stick to what we regularly report on, though hepatitis A, not good to see that rising. So we'll probably just stick to the regular stuff that we normally report on when we do these wastewater scan reports. And now let's do another one out on the West Coast. Let's come out to California. Let's come down here to Los Angeles. Let's see, did they add all the new stuff there as well? Yes, they did add the new stuff there. It's great to see more stuff. I mean, these people that run wastewater scan are just phenomenal. Their data is just fantastic. COVID, it is starting to drop. The overall trajectory was up, but now it is starting to drop. Influenza, not detected. RSV was detected, but now it has dropped. HMPV is not being detected. Uh-oh, look at this. There was a detection at this one Los Angeles, the northern Los Angeles site of Mpox. Not good to see. Norovirus, it's starting to rise on the most recent update, and you can see human endovirus is starting to rise a little bit. Hepatitis A did drop at this time. Again, I will have to do some research on these other types of viruses that are now being detected in wastewater. They may have a disclaimer here on their page that will help us with that. All right, moving on here to the latest variants, EG.5. It's in the lead at 24.5%. And the other one we're watching is HV.1, which is at 8.4%. Some good news on hospitalizations. They did drop ever so slightly this week. Hospital admissions on the newest update is at 19,674. New Jersey, no good news here. New Jersey, 544 hospitalizations, and that's with all hospitals not reporting. There's 5 that are still missing, so 65 out of 70, and yet New Jersey is now up to 544 hospitalizations. On a ventilator, 66 people. In the ICU, 65. Now let's go across the Delaware River and check in on southeast Pennsylvania. First off, Philadelphia Fire Department yesterday reported 730 EMS incidents. That's still well below that 800 level that I watch out for. So that is some good news. Remember, yesterday they put a tweet out in the middle of the day that it was a busy day, and, well, 730, yes. Well, that's busier than most cities would see. That is not as busy as we were seeing earlier in the month and throughout the majority of the summer. Checking in with southeast Pennsylvania in Montgomery County. Not too bad right now. Not all that busy. Chester County. Also, let's refresh this. Make sure it's up to date. Not too busy. We do see a couple sick person calls. So that's not good to see. All right. Checking in on New York State. 1,858 new cases today. And checking in on New York State hospitalizations. That number, my friends, remember we suspected they may start rising again. It did rise a little bit. It's back to 1,548. And as you can see here, that's the highest number that's been reported since the whole rise started. And there are 157 people in the ICU now. So that's not good to see either. And now let's take a look at the admissions. And it's going to refresh the page here. But let's take a look at the admissions. And you can see here, zooming in, the admissions, they are starting to rise again, which is not good to see. We don't like to see New York State hospital admissions rising, but here we are. They're doing just that. Same thing with New York City. New York City hospital admissions are starting to rise as well, as are the number of people in the hospital. 681 hospitalized and 69 people in the ICU. And that's just ever so slightly higher than the peak that they had about a couple weeks ago. So we'll have to see. Are they going to continue higher, and is this already a new wave? Alrighty, we will get a Texas update tomorrow. We may get some other states that update tomorrow. Let's do a brief international update, moving myself back to the right, and taking a look here. We're going to refresh this to make sure that it's up to date, because sometimes maybe there's been some more countries that came in since I started this video. And you can see here, Italy, cases are down 58%, deaths are down 57%. Russia, cases up 50%, deaths up 40%. Romania, cases up 57%, deaths up 29%. Germany, great to see Germany back here. Germany is now up 3%, deaths are down 44%. And then we come down here to, let's see, where do we want to go? Australia, cases are down 51%, deaths are down 57%. Bulgaria, cases up 53%. Deaths, 5 versus 2, that's why you see a 150% increase. Ireland, not good. 17% increase in cases, 25 deaths versus 9. That's a 178% increase. And we will end today on, let's see here, Thailand, where cases are starting to rise again. They're up 10%, deaths are flat, 3 versus 3. Alrighty, folks, that does it for today's pandemic update. We'll have another pandemic update again in the near future, maybe tomorrow, or maybe it'll be later in the week. We'll just have to see how things go. Until I see you again next time, first off, like this video if you like it. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel down below. If you know anyone that needs to see this data, by all means, share this with them. I will see you all again next time. But until I see you again next time, stay safe, everyone, and have a great evening.